Hi everyone, welcome to the Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon Release Podcast for Monday, May 5th. I am Ed from bourbonobsessed.com, also known on Instagram as bourbon_obsessed. I am here again with my friend and bourbon aficionado, Dean Langton. Dean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ed. Glad to be back and appreciate your lovely wife, Karen, filling in my short absence there. So looking forward to reviewing.
No one can really fill in for you.
Oh, well, she did a very good job. She knew things I wouldn't know, but hopefully that's true going both directions. So,
do you have any big derby plans, even though
it's just a day away or 2 days away? I don't usually just go to a friend's house and take it easy. Every once in a while, I'll go out to Keeneland because they really have a great party out at Keeneland for the Derby. But it's so much easier just to be able to walk to a friend's house and walk back.
Yeah.
What about you?
No. No plans.
Well, our listeners will know that we're an exciting bunch of gals. So.
Well,
bourbon will be involved no matter what we're doing.
Yeah,
right?
so bourbon is always involved. I actually think we may be going to Buffalo Trace. I think there's something there that morning.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Something day at the races or something like that. So I think that's what we're actually doing.
Well, and the governor has a breakfast on the morning of Derby. I think you have to be in. No, that may be open to the public, actually, the governor's Derby breakfast. So our more astute Kentucky listeners will correct us about that. But
yeah, that I'm not familiar with. But yeah, and the governor did not mention that to me at breakfast this morning. So
well,
he doesn't want me to come.
I guess that's not a good sign. Not a good sign. So
we should dive right in because we have a huge amount of bourbon releases today to discuss. So once again, does not seem like there's a huge bourbon slump, at least by the numbers of releases that have been going on.
There's a lot of stuff in the hopper, isn't there? People have been working to grow the market, and you can't just stop producing bourbon. It takes several years, right? So there's a big backup, it seems to me, of products out there. There's some really creative ones this week. So I'm looking forward to talking and sharing them with our listeners.
I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, many of these have been in the works for years. There was no...
Right.
Because bourbon is something you plan out way, way ahead. So, yeah, I mean, these were already going to come out. No matter
they were.
We've
got to figure out what the sell-through rate is on some of these things to see if that's really changed. That would be the acid test, but I don't know how to do that. So
no, I don't think most of the companies are going to share their
probably not
sales figures with us, unless you become a stockholder. So we'll start with our first one. So Chicken Cock Whiskey has released a 10-year aged double oak Kentucky whiskey. This expression begins with 8-year-old whiskey initially aged in used bourbon barrels, which is then rebarreled and matured for an additional 2 years in new American oak barrels sourced from West Virginia. The extended aging in 2 types of oak barrels is designed to extract all of the great flavor within the oak to create a robust and interesting sipper, according to the distillery, and offering what the brand describes as double the wood, double the flavor. Interestingly, this 10-year-old expression, which is replacing what was an 8-year-old expression, is priced $20 lower than the 8-year-old. So it's priced at $79.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle, and it's bottled at 92 proof. And the 8-year, according to the website, was priced at $99.99. So if there's not some typo somewhere, this is 2 years older and $20 less expensive.
Well, and that's hard to imagine, because if you're putting it into a second barrel, I guess the other one was double oak too, wasn't it? It was an 8-year double oak, so you don't have a different cost structure. But yeah, maybe that's a sign of supply and demand. If there's an oversupply in the market, they realize that they're going to have a better chance of moving this at a $20 less price. And I'm sure they're still making money at $80 a bottle.
Yeah, well, it was the trend we've been seeing in a lot. I mean, aside from there's a few outliers and there's a few in today's list.
There are.
Many of them have otherwise decreased in price, and the ages just keep going up. So. Yeah. But the other thing about this is it's a whiskey, not a bourbon. So it's first aged in a used bourbon barrel. So that cuts down some of the cost.
True, yeah. I'd be interested to try this double oak. It usually has a nice, appealing palate for folks. To me, this is a little bit on the high end, even at $80. I know you can get other folks' double oak products out there for a little bit less. I mean, like, for example, Woodford double oaked, I think, is around 50. Maybe?
Yeah, but it's not 10 years old.
It's not, true enough. So not a bad deal. So
yeah, I mean,
we'll have to try it. I haven't tried it yet. So
yeah, well, hopefully we'll have the opportunity.
Yeah.
All right, our next one is from New Riff. So New Riff Distilling has announced the 2025 release of their Sour Mash Single Malt, featuring a combination of 3 mash bills finished in 6 different casks, creating a, quote, layered and complex exploration of flavors with depth and nuance. The final blend, showcasing some of our oldest malt, according to the distillery, whiskeys up to 10 years of age, was rebarreled into used oak for an extended maturation period, something we tried for the first time in this release, with exciting results. It's available starting Friday, which is tomorrow, not for when the podcast airs, but for real life.
Uh-huh.
And it's going to be on sale in the distillery gift shop, and it will be online and at retailers in the coming weeks. And it's bottled at 115.2 proof, and it's priced at $69.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle. And they give more specifics on there.
Yeah, and I looked at some of those specifics. And so what I found interesting about this was the different casks that they're aging these in. So as you might expect, new charred oak barrels, that's sort of a given, but used bourbon barrels that they decharred and then toasted, used bourbon barrels that they decharred and then recharred, Madeira cask, Oloroso sherry cask, and then red wine cask of a French oak. So that's a real wide variety of barrels, that would, obviously impart a whole slew of different tastes. I love what they're doing with this from an experimentation standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, and the different mash bills that are in there. I mean, some of it is peated again, and then there's the Maris Otter. I don't remember the offhand.
Yeah,
but which I think there were like 6 mash bills in last year's release. Have you tried any of the priors?
I tried last year's malted single malt at the Bourbon Festival actually, and I think it's because I was in between so many different bourbons that it didn't strike me the right way. My palate wasn't ready. My brain wasn't ready for a malt whiskey. But I haven't tried it since then.
Well, it's a hugely different flavor profile.
It really is.
And it also had some peat in it. So when you mix that, to convert from drinking a whole bunch of bourbon at a bourbon festival.
Well, now a whole bunch is relative, okay? It was, but that's exactly right. I like peat. I don't have a problem.
You got to get your money's worth.
You do. You do, and I do. Trust me.
But yeah, I'm definitely going to go because they always have things at the distillery when on the days that this releases, and we're actually going up to something at Smoke Justice tomorrow night, so we'll be up there. As well. So we'll stop by the distillery. And I think they have a flight that is always reasonably priced during these releases. It's a flight of the 3 different years worth of the single malts that they've been out. So that's going to be really cool.
That sounds great.
And then I think it's only $8 for a 1 ounce pour of this one, if you just want to get that as well. So
they do great product release events up there. And Smoke Justice is a nice place to visit too. They put on some nice events. They've got an amazing bourbon selection. So.
Yeah, I actually wish it was more convenient.
Me too. Yeah. They need to open a Lexington, a location. We can talk to them about that. You talk to them about that when you're up there tomorrow. So,
well, if we keep giving them free plugs like this, they might want to just send cars down to drive us up there whenever we want to go. That'd be nice too.
You've got such great ideas there. Just again, suggest them. You never know. Somebody will bite on this stuff. So.
I'm sure. Not holding my breath, but you never know. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to it. I've been a big fan of the others. I like peated whiskeys, so just having it as a small amount in this just adds I'm sure we'll just add a touch. It's not going to be even close to overpowering, so
right.
I'm looking forward to it. Okay, this next one is rolling around too soon because we're sipping on it right now, and well, I've had it before. You haven't had the chance to try it, so while I'm reading this information, get a good feel for it. So this one's from Minden Mill, and Minden Mill Distilling has released its American Single Malt Whiskey, crafted entirely on-site in Nevada's high desert using 100% estate-grown barley malted barley, I guess, produced with water sourced from an on-site well fed by Sierra Nevada snowpack. The whiskey is distilled in all copper Forsyth stills imported from Scotland and heated using a direct fire mimicking thermal oil system. Aged for 5 years in a combination of Oloroso sherry and ex-bourbon, American oak, and recharred wine and sherry casks, the whiskey matures, and this is a really interesting part, in climate-controlled rickhouses calibrated to mimic the Speyside region of Scotland. So it's available now nationally and online. It's bottled at 94 proof, and it's priced at $60 for a 750 milliliter bottle. And they're a member of that estate distillery,
right?
That organization that we had spoken about,
Right. Everything grown there, everything made there, everything I assume bottled there. So that's great.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, I'm there's a small part of me that's a science geek, and it's freaking out about the calibrated rickhouse, to mimic Speyside. How are they doing that, right? I mean, I guess it's just temperature and humidity control, but is there a brine factor from the ocean? I don't think so in Speyside, but I could be wrong. And then the thermal oil system. How do you get a mimicking fire from thermal oil somehow? That I started looking at that and I quickly got confused. So
well, I think we're going to have to take a trip because, well, number one, it looks like a really cool distillery. They have separate setups it's gigantic, first of all. Mm-hmm. And they have separate setups for the single malt line than they do for making their bourbons and ryes. And yeah, I mean, I suppose it gives them more direct heat rather than some sort of a steam jacket or a steam injection. Mm-hmm. So the heated oil is just on the bottom, the way a fire would be. But I think we'd need to see it. I mean, I want to see the whole thing. It sounds really
right. It really does.
Really cool.
Road trip.
Absolutely. So you're just tasting it for the first time, but I've already reviewed it. The review's actually already on the website. And I was a big fan. I mean, what do you think?
I love the way it tastes. My palate is stronger than my nose on things. It certainly smells like a malt whiskey on the nose, but I'm not picking up other specific aromas on the palate. I get some peach and some grape and some honey, and there's some malt on the back end. Really nice viscosity, great mouthfeel. It doesn't have any drying taste, no tannic taste at all. So
no, and I thought it was very fruit forward. It actually reminded me of an Irish whiskey, but I guess also an unpeated Scotch. So yeah, I mean, unlike a lot of American single malts, it's not that sort of grain forward. It's very fruit forward. It's getting that out of the malt, and maybe that has something to do with how they're making it, and then how it's aging.
How it's aging. I mean, could have something to do with the water source, I suppose. Hard to tell, but whatever they're doing, it is working. It's a very nice sipping whiskey.
I really enjoyed it, and I've also tried and just recently reviewed their bourbon and their rye, and also all estate everything, and I liked both of those as well. So I'm Nevada's a little ways away, but I'm pretty interested in actually going there at some point.
Yeah, and so we've got to support these distilleries, these smaller distilleries, because they're the ones in my brain that's more at risk from the economic situation with bourbon. These folks aren't trying to be Maker's Mark or Jim Beam, but they've got to find enough of a niche to be able to keep on going. So listeners, pay heed and look for this one. Pick a bottle up, give it a try, see if you like it or not.
Yeah, I think it's definitely got a niche. I mean, it's the terroir effect, I suppose, is playing a role. But the flavors of all of their whiskeys have been, I thought, very good. I've actually really enjoyed them.
What's up next?
Well, our next one's from MB Roland. So MB Roland Distillery has released Old Second District, its latest bottled in Bond Bourbon, and the second in its portfolio after Barker's Mill. Named for the Western Kentucky tax district that existed prior to Prohibition, as they say, this product highlights our locally grown grains, pot distillation, and wood-fired barrels charred over natural white oak fires. The new expression is currently available at the distillery's gift shop and will soon be distributed to multiple states and online. And bottled in bond, it's at 100 proof, and I do not know the price at this point.
I actually checked the website this morning, and it's $49.95. So that's a pretty good price point for a bottled in bond product.
You tried their first one. I think we tried it here. I thought at one of the what we call Dean and Rye.
Yes, the Dean and Rye events.
And everybody really liked it. The Barker's Mill.
We did.
Was the original one?
Yep, I remember that.
And yeah, it was a big hit. So I'm very excited to try this one too, because they make very good whiskey as well.
Yeah, I saw on the label that it was distilled in the fall of 2020. So it's right at the 4.5 year mark. Bottled it in the spring of this year. So I think they do good stuff down there. I'd like to, when you get that bottle and you have to review it, I'm happy to help you out at it.
Yep. Well, happy to share. So this next one is from Oaklore Distilling. So Oaklore Distilling Company has launched its flagship Oaklore Four Grain Bourbon nationwide. This 92 proof, non-chill filtered bourbon blends wheated and rye bourbons that were distilled in Kentucky and North Carolina and rebarrels them to age for an additional 8 to 12 months in palletized, non-climate controlled warehouses in the North Carolina Piedmont. Number 2, 3, and 4 char level barrels and multiple cooperages are used to achieve consistency and a flavorful bourbon that's not overwhelmed by wood influences, according to the distillery. The suggested retail price is $69.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle.
And when I looked at their website, I see that they this distillery was created in 2017, so it's a relatively new place. I wonder about they tout the environment, the weather there is as humid and subtropical, but less variation than in some place like Kentucky, and so I get it. That's maybe a more consistent movement of the bourbon in and out of the wood, but I tend to think that a more drastic or thorough movement in and out of wood is part of what makes bourbon bourbon. And so, interesting approach. Let's see how it does. I saw it's got barrels are 5 or 6 years old, so that's got a decent age on it. The mash bill, 72% corn and 11% wheat, 10% rye, and 7% barley. So while it's a 4 grain, it's in my brain a little bit. It's got both wheat and rye, but neither one of them are all that huge compared to the underlying corn as the main grain.
So I guess it's not clear to me when the Kentucky barrels left Kentucky. If they got there right before they were re-barreled, so they did have most of their time in the Kentucky climate, and it's just this rebarreling period of 8 to 12 months where they're in the North Carolina Piedmont. And the North Carolina ones, I mean, I guess we don't know where in North Carolina those came from, because I'm assuming it's not their own, or they wouldn't word it as North Carolina, but you never know.
Yeah. And it could be, if they're 5 and 6 years old and they started in 2017, it could be some of their own juice.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Again, need to learn.
Yeah, there wasn't all that much information on the website, so well, somebody have to write in and tell us what they think after they pick it up from the shelf. Well,
this is going to be on its way, so we'll be
all right.
We'll have the opportunity to taste it too, and we'll get more details before we always get more details before the reviews actually get published, so we'll know a lot more about it then.
Excellent.
So this next one is Star Trek Spirits and Stellum Spirits have teamed up to launch 2 exclusive limited edition whiskeys. A bold blended rye whiskey at 118.02 proof and a robust cask strength blended whiskey at 120.67 proof. Can you be that accurate? This is my question. Housed in iconic Romulan Ale bottles, these small batch releases capture the spirit of adventure and innovation, blending rich, complex flavors with Star Trek's legendary lore. Both expressions are available online with limited availability for $79 each. And I don't think we had too much more information really about them, did we?
I didn't. Well, I found a little bit more information. So first of all, I mean, this is Stellum is a Barrell Craft Spirits product. And Barrell Craft is just in my brain, the best blender in the industry. And they've got some amazing stocks.
Well, Stellum had things released under its own label for a while, but then that sort of went away. And now I think it's only private barrel type things and projects like this that they're doing.
Right. So I found that the rye is 5 years and 5 months old, and the mash bill is 14% corn, 82% rye, and 4% barley. So that is a true rye. And then the whiskey is between 5 and 11 years old, with a mash bill of 79 corn, 18 rye, and 3% barley. And then it was finished in an Oloroso sherry cask. So there's only 3 barrels each of these. And so at first I think, well, is this Stellum figuring out what to do with excess inventory? But after going through it, I said, no, they really did pick these. And I don't know if you went to the website and looked at the bottles. The bottles are really cool looking. You don't have to be a Star Trek geek to really like the bottle shape. So
no, the pictures of them are in my montage for the newsletter that comes out tomorrow, which will be 2 days before the podcast comes out. But,
so take a look when you all get that, folks.
Yeah. And if you don't get the newsletter, be sure to go to bourbonobsessed.com and sign up for the newsletters. And you'll get the Bourbon News newsletter and the Bourbon Releases newsletter, and they alternate every other week.
Although it is not nearly as much fun as listening to us talk about it.
We may feel that way. Hopefully someone else does.
We hope so too. That's right.
Hey, so our next one is so now we have both of these next two are where I get to mispronounce things. So the Velardé Distillery series is the latest limited release from Rabbit Hole, a bourbon that marries New World creativity with Old World craftsmanship, according to the distillery. This red winter wheated bourbon is first aged for over 4 years in number 3 charred New American oak barrels and then finished for 4 months in Oloroso sherry casks, resulting in a bold, fruit-forward profile. Crafted from a mash bill of 65% corn, 25% wheat, and 10% malted barley, it is bottled at 110.9 proof and sold in 375 milliliter bottles for $49.99. It's available at Rabbit Hole Distillery and online in select states.
It sounds like an interesting experiment to me. I think that going to a 375 size is perhaps another way of dealing with market conditions. Is that, it gives you a lower price point? Does that appeal to more consumers? Is it a way to try something?
It's been how all their distillery series have been.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. There you go.
They've all been at 375.
That's all we have on the show.
They're all in that same bottle. Well, I've got a few of them over there.
All right. Yeah.
They've actually, I've enjoyed their I actually, this one sounds good.
It does. Yeah. I mean, Rabbit Hole is a good, well-established distillery. And they really experiment with things like this. So I like that about them.
Yeah. I'm interested to try this one.
This one is an easier price point than the next one.
It is. So it's another one from Rabbit Hole, and it's the other end of the spectrum. So this is from their Founders Collection, which is their yearly limited release collection. And Rabbit Hole Distillery has unveiled this, I do not know how to pronounce this one, Adourra, Adourra, a limited edition 9-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon finished in Armagnac brandy casks.
So there wasn't much information about it as far as what it actually is. It's presented beautifully, right?
Yeah, I have a little more to read, but yeah, it's not more. So this expression is part of the Founders Collection, as we had said. However, unfortunately, few specific details are given about it, exactly what Dean just said. Each bottle is numbered, features a heavy gold cork, and comes in a box wrapped in Rabbit Hole's brand linen pattern. It's available exclusively at the distillery and online in select states. It is bottled at 108 proof and priced at $899 for a 750 milliliter bottle. So yeah, it'd be nice to have a little more information, I think, for that price.
Especially because before I shell out $700, I want to know a little bit more about what I'm buying.
$900.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's $100 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, so these Founder Series have often been on the very high end of pricing.
Right.
And honestly, I think this may be one of the less expensive ones of the recent ones. I think the Mizunera, I mean,
there's sometimes four
over
figures.
1,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this is one of those ones where I'd love to find out a sell-through rate, 6 months from now. It's just available at the distillery. I don't remember, Ed, does Rabbit Hole have like a club, for lack of a better word, where you get first access if you're a club member?
not that I know of.
I don't think they did. I know Angel's Envy does, but so again, it's just available with the distillery.
But it'll show up in this. I mean, it says online in select states, but all these other Founders Series have shown up in stores in Kentucky. I mean,
right. I suspect we'll be able to find it at Total Wine in a period of time.
I'll be in the glass case.
$950. So yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to understand a little more of the pricing behind this though, because it's a 9-year bourbon. So even finished in an Armagnac cask, it's a $900 price tag seems a bit high to me.
It seems very high to me. I mean, there are other Armagnac finished bourbons out there that probably have this age range in Armagnac finish that aren't $900.
No, I mean, and it's interesting when the general trend is for the prices to be going down and the ages to go up, as we're seeing many get to 6, 8, 10.
Right.
For under 100 now. So it's interesting. All right. Our next one is a lot of things. So it's from Calumet Farm, and they're releasing the Calumet Farm Centennial Collection to celebrate its 100th anniversary. This limited edition lineup includes 5 bourbons and 1 rye whiskey. The Calumet Farm 18-year-old Trophy Decanter Centennial Bourbon is at 118 proof. The Calumet Farm 17-year-old Glass Decanter Centennial Bourbon is at 117 proof. The Calumet Farm Ceramic Decanter Centennial Bourbon is 86 proof. There's going to be a quiz at the end. The Calumet Farm Bottled and Bond Centennial Bourbon is at 100 proof. And the Calumet Farm Origin Release Centennial Bourbon is also at 100 proof. Rounding out the lineup is the Calumet Farm Centennial High Rye Whiskey, also at 100 proof. And it's the brand's first ever rye release. And maybe you found the prices, but I didn't find the prices.
I looked this morning, and the prices are not up there yet. These are all the same mash bill. It's a 74-18-8 mash bill on number 4 char barrels. I'm really interested in the rye on this because, Dean and rye and the whole thing, but the rye is a 91 rye, 9% barley mash bill. And so that's intriguing to me.
And whose mash bill is that?
I don't think that's anybody's. I don't recognize that. Usually it's a 95.5.
The Calumet Farm sources. I didn't think they contract distilled. So somebody
made it.
Made
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great question, and I don't know. I thought the decanter is boy, it's been a long time since there've been decanters out there. Mm-hmm. It's their main stable, and it's sort of I like the way it looks. I need to not get one because I'll get in trouble for having just another bottle that I put on the shelf that looks pretty. But I thought that was a nice touch.
Well, the other one's like a sort of one of those crystal type decanters too. They actually, a couple of these are at Total Wine. I guess maybe the prices are on their website, but because I saw them the other day when I was there.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the trophy decanter is really neat. It's shaped somewhat like a trophy. It's fluted and it's got a really nice look. What a lot of people may forget that back in the 90s, Calumet actually went through a bankruptcy. And someplace I've got the auction catalog where they auctioned off trophies and things like that. But we're really lucky here in Kentucky because somebody bought that farm and kept it as Calumet. And it's just got some amazing history as far as thoroughbred racing and Kentucky history. So this is a really nice bourbon way to celebrate that extensive history, 100 years of a farm. That's great.
I did not know that about Calumet Farm.
Yeah. So I know all sorts of trivia.
The World Wide Web is a wonderful thing. Alrighty. Our next one is from Barrell Craft Spirits. I suppose I should have put it up with the Star Trek one, so we'd have some continuity with brands. But
You're forgiven.
we'll just keep everybody on their
That's
on
right.
their toes.
Right.
So Barrell Craft Spirits has launched its first ever Barrel Foolproof Bourbon, a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys aged 11 to 20 years. Bottled at its original barrel entry proof of 123, which is what has become what people call foolproof these days, Barrel Foolproof Bourbon is crafted from bourbons sourced from Kentucky, Indiana, and Tennessee, ranging in age from 11 to 20 years. It features a derived mash bill of corn 78%, rye 11%, and malted barley 11%. It's available online and at select retailers for an SRP of $199.99.
Here's another, $200 bottle that, that's barrel products are often around that $100 range. So this is a 2-up. I get it that it's the full proof. I like higher proof bourbons, but this one,
Well, it's 11 to 20 years.
yeah. And I got an email about buying this. I guess I get that email from Barrell. But by the time I clicked on the link, by the time I clicked on the link, they had sold out, I think. So
Really?
yeah. I mean, I don't know how many of these there are, but
I suspect, but I mean, I can't believe that would be their whole.
I can't either. So that was source of. It may have been through a third party that got an allocation and they sold theirs out. I did see the age ranges are interesting in Kentucky. They range from the Kentucky bourbon is 11 to 20 years old. The Indiana bourbon is 16 and 18 years old, and the Tennessee bourbon is 16 and 17 years old. So it's a lot of older bourbons when you look at that all together.
But from a price perspective, a 20-year-old Kentucky would certainly drive up the price.
It would, right?
Quite a bit. Yeah, so I don't know I can't remember what the label looks like, but Barrell has, the different colored labels, the gray and the gold as they move up, and that also moves up in price. So
Right.
I don't know if this is in one of those categories.
Yeah, this was just an orange label, I think. So that's what I remember looking on site. So and usually when they do that, they'll put, either gray or gold in the name of the bourbon. So, but it's Barrell. I'm sure it's good. Again, they've got amazing stocks of bourbon and they do a magical job of blending it. So.
No, they do. I mean, blending together, they often blend multiple states like this and with this wide age range, but nothing's younger than 11 years. So
right.
I suspect this will be quite good. And I mean, 100, it's probably not that's not an unreasonable price. I don't think.
No, it's not unreasonable, but there's a limited market for that. It's not your.
You just told me it's sold out.
Well, nationwide, there's plenty of people that have $200 out there. So
not anymore.
That's right. Barrell has that $200 thing. So,
all right. Our next one's from Sagamore Spirit. So Sagamore Spirit has announced a new batch of its award-winning Cask Strength Rye Whiskey, now aged 7 years and bottled at a robust 123 proof. It's made entirely in Maryland. That's where Sagamore is based, just in case people don't know. This bold rye was crafted using Sagamore's triple distilled 2-mash bill approach, rolling out nationwide this May with a suggested retail price of $69.99.
I like Sagamore products. It is that Maryland rye. There's some history there behind, rye. Rye was made in Maryland, arguably before Kentucky and that whole tradition. But I also think this is a pretty good, it's a bargain, isn't it? I mean, a 7-year-old rye at 123 proof for $70 is certainly.
Yeah, and distilled there. And they use local grains and they source it down with proof it down with the water from the Sagamore Farm. And the 2 mash bill approach is a high rye and a low rye.
Yeah.
Hope I'm not stealing your thunder.
No, you're not. And they triple distill. I mean, they're very careful and thoughtful about how they make their products, and that shows in the product. So
yeah, I've been a big Sagamore fan. I got like the whole shelf of them actually. So
most of my bottles are empty. So we'll have to work on that. We'll see if we can trade commentary for rye.
Our next one is from Whiskey Row. So Whiskey Row Bourbon, launched by Avalon Spirits, is inspired by the birthplace of the bourbon industry and the culture of experimentation that fueled its growth. Named after Louisville's Whiskey Row and crafted at Kentucky Artisan Distillery, the new lineup features 3 distinct expressions. Triple Wood, which is finished in cognac and PX sherry casks at 90 proof and $49.99. Bottled and Bond, which adheres to the Bottled and Bond standard, so it's 100 proof and $59.99. And Cask Strength, which is a 4-grain bourbon offering bold flavors at 111 proof and priced at $69.99. Each release reflects the complex flavor profiles of pre-Prohibition whiskey, a time of greater experimentation in aging techniques, according to the distillery.
And this is a, if I'm not mistaken, this is a Steve Thompson, at least endeavor or influenced endeavor as the distiller.
Because that brand has been around. This makes it sound like it's brand new, but those Whiskey Row has been around for quite some time, produced by Kentucky Artisan Distillery. I think I have a bottle of it over there.
Yeah,
in fact,
I mean, and I bought a bottle. It's the regular product is a really good price point, and it's a very good whiskey. So again, I'd like to give these a try. They're good price points, not unreasonable price points anyway, and the whole Whiskey Row, the history of Whiskey Row in Louisville, that's just where everybody went to get their bourbon and to ship their bourbon down the river. So I like the fact that they're highlighting that through their name and their marketing a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So when Avalon Spirits has taken it over, they've really been more of a brand expansion than a introduction, as it sort of implies. But all these different, the Triple Wood, Cask Strength, and Bottled and Bond were not part of what it was. As far as I know, it was just the singular Whiskey Row bourbon up until now. So this is exciting. Yeah. So they're taking the brand and running with it, and it'll be. We have to learn more exactly about what the pre-Prohibition techniques are.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know enough about that, but yeah, it's good to see the brand expand. They don't have much shelf space, so if they can go from 1 row of bottles on the shelf to 4, that's going to help drive sales, right?
Yeah, certainly interested. Well, I'm interested in trying everything, but I'm certainly interested in trying these as well. Actually, I haven't had anything from Kentucky Artisan lately, and I know there's a number of brands that have been new brands that are coming out of there as well.
And we've got the opportunity to go on a tour coming up pretty soon, I think, through one of our groups, the Bourbon Influencers. So I'll give them a quick shout out. But I have been on a tour at Kentucky Artisan. It's a nice facility. It's not really set up like a Woodford or a Beam or anything like that. But they make bourbon for a lot of people, and again, folks don't always realize that. So,
well, I mean, Jefferson was the big one where we're doing a lot of the blending and making, I guess, some. But Jefferson's, but that's a whole other story. I mean, they're building their whole own gigantic distillery,
right?
Which I think is actually supposed to open pretty soon. It'll probably be discussed on our news podcast at some point.
Probably will. So it's interesting. There's a lot of, there's that. There's Blue Run is, I understand, building a distillery in Georgetown. So there's still a lot of distillery construction going on.
Is that one actually? I don't think that one's broken ground.
Hasn't it? I'm saying I don't know. I mean, that's
I don't think so. But
that's going to have to be a news episode. We'll do sort of a recap of here's where all these distilleries are. I mean, there's so many of them that we're trying to get off the ground.
But down in that area in Springfield, I mean, there's a whole bunch of people there. I mean, Willet's built the distillery there. Potter Jane is open and distilling.
Yeah,
they just filled their first barrel 2 months ago.
That sounds about right. Yeah,
I have no sense of time anymore.
I understand.
but yeah, no, there's a lot going on.
So this next one's not even a bourbon, Ed. I'm not sure how this got in here.
Well, just because it's just interesting. So Johnnie Walker has unveiled Johnnie Walker Blue Label Ultra, a limited edition Scotch whiskey presented in what is claimed to be the world's lightest 700 milliliter glass bottle, weighing just 180 grams. That's 6.3 ounces without the stopper, and that's approximately 80% less than their standard bottle. So, I mean, my first thought is the thing's going to break apart the second,
right?
But I mean, I'm assuming not. So, using new patented glass technology developed by Diageo's design team. So, Diageo owns Johnnie Walker, if anybody was not aware. And this lighter, lower carbon bottle embodies the future of luxury packaging, fusing sustainability with exceptional craftsmanship. Crafted over 5 years in collaboration with Turkish glassmaker, I'm sure I'm messing this up, Sisakam, the teardrop-shaped bottle departs from the brand's traditional design and is housed in a protective bamboo cage, which is necessary because the bottle is round. So it can't stand on its own. It has to go into this
bamboo cage
rack to stop it from falling over. The whiskey itself is a blend crafted by master blender Dr. Emma Walker and includes whiskeys from distilleries such as Oban, Adourra, and Royal Lochnagar, as well as select ghost whiskeys from now closed distilleries. Only 888 bottles have been produced, and it's bottled at 110 proof, which I think is pretty high for a Johnnie Walker.
Very high.
And it's not cheap. So it's $1,250 for a 700 milliliter bottle.
I was struck by the irony of trying to go for sustainability and using less glass, but then having to have a bamboo holder for it.
I think people have pointed that out.
It's like, wait a second. You're using less glass, but you got to have a whole separate package for it. Bamboo is very sustainable and renewable. I get that. But anyway, I like Scotch, but I'm afraid I'm not in the market for a $1,200, 700 milliliter bottle of Johnnie Walker.
But in the Scotch world, that's not even anywhere near as high as you can go.
I get the emails for my $5,000, $10,000 bottles of Scotch, but they go unopened.
Well, maybe they'll send us a bottle to review and to see how
it's pretty. I mean, I looked at it. I like the design.
No, it's very
give them that. It seems odd to me if you spend 5 years developing something and you've got 888 bottles. Surely they manufactured more of these bottles, and we're gonna, there's the.
Well, they realize they don't stand on their own.
The economics of putting 5 years of research into manufacturing, let's call it 1,000 bottles, does not make sense.
No, but I mean, it's interesting in a lot of ways. I mean, apparently that rounded bottom bottle shape, like a flask, that actually helps them cut down on the amount of glass used by increasing the surface area and the volume that it can hold and the strength. So that's why they did it. And what I thought was actually very cool, though, this is like open source. So they're willing to let anybody else use this technology to make these environmentally more sound and sustainable, less carbon using bottles. So this is meant, I think it sort of started as a sort of cool experiment, but they're willing to share it. And, I mean, if we can make bottles with way less material.
I don't think this will carry over to barrels. I don't think we can make like thinner barrels.
Well, you have to talk to the trees.
Right. Yeah.
Or the Lorax. He speaks for the trees.
He does.
So our next one's interesting, and it's a sort of seasonal, although I think it's actually a permanent addition to the line. Larrikin Bourbon Company has launched Larrikin Rosewater Bourbon, a limited edition Kentucky straight bourbon crafted for spring and Derby season celebrations. This expression is a blend of 5 and 6 year old barrels, proof to 86, using house brewed rosewater tea inspired by South Asian, I'm sure I'll pronounce this wrong too, gulab jal. The result is a floral notes non-chill filtered bourbon with a mash bill of 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley, offering a unique take on a traditional bourbon. So as I said, 86 proof, and it's $70 for a 750 milliliter bottle. And you may have noticed it upstairs. They were kind enough to actually send me a bottle to try and review, so we can actually give that a taste. And I actually tasted this predecessor to this when we did a barrel pick for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival a year ago, because there was the first barrel of, but it's a little different than the versions that are being made now, but it was good at the time. Haven't tasted the new one yet, just arrived, but we'll.
Right. I mean, and it's marketing kudos for tying rosewater to the Derby, right? Because the bed of roses that goes to the winter. I get that. I'd be interested to try it because a rosewater is a very, in my experience, very mild, gentle, flavor. And so I'd be interested to see, I guess, making a tea with it will sort of strengthen it and let it be able to at least be tasted in conjunction with the bourbon, because I would afraid it would be lost to the normal bourbon taste. So,
well, probably explains the 86 proof, because the majority of, or all, I think, of the Larrikin things that I've had, and for those that don't know, that used to be Lawrenceburg Bourbon. They changed their name in September. Their things tend to be pretty high proof. So
that's true.
That may be the rationale. Now, I think when I tasted it, it was in the barrel. I do not know what the proof was at the time. So anyway, so I mean that may tie in, but
right.
Yeah, we'll definitely give that a taste, and we'll
again, creativity. I love the creativity that's going on in the bourbon world. I would never have thought to use a rosewater, to help. It's not really finishing it, but it's and I don't call it flavoring because it's not that either. But it's just an interesting addition to it. I guess is it bourbon? Is this an additive?
No, I mean I think it's worded. It's going to probably be in the distilled spirit specialty category. So I mean the label's worded as bourbon proof down with the teeth. So no, I mean technically it's not. All right. So next is from Angel's Envy. So Angel's Envy Cellar Collection Volume 5 Straight Rye Whiskey finished in French Oak Extra Añejo Tequila Barrels, has the longest name of anything on the list, is the brand's latest innovation and the first Cellar Collection release overseen entirely by new, although I think Owen's been there for like a year and a half now.
I think so.
Master distiller Owen Martin. This limited edition blend includes straight rye whiskeys aged up to 7 years, finished for up to 12 months in French oak tequila barrels sourced from Hacienda Patron and combined with rye whiskey aged over 11 years. Bottled at 104.2 proof, it will be available nationwide beginning May 31st for a suggested retail price of $269.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle.
I was interested by the fact that you've got a 7-year rye that you're finishing in the tequila barrels, but then you're adding, you're combining it with an 11-year rye. If that was the initial plan, that's great. I'm curious as to whether you had that 7-year rye, you finished it, and you're going, it needs something. What do we add to it? And that's what they came up with, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not a distiller.
I'm not as cynical as you. And so Owen, he sort of has a big Scotch background and single kind of background. So he trained there, and he was at Stranahan's. You've drunk his.
I have
his whiskeys from there. So I think he, from my experience, I mean, his finishes tend to be more subtle. So I suspect he intended to do it this way. And this is sort of done in the industry. All the Blood Oaths, they only ever finish the youngest of the 3 bourbons in the blend. So I think, I think a lot of people don't want to, I don't know if mess with is the right thing, but if you've got a more well-aged thing, and 11 years is pretty aged for a rye.
Exactly.
I think most people are not going to want to, do anything to that. They're going to want to keep that in its pure form. So I think finishing only the younger one is not an uncommon thing to do. And then it also allows your finish to be much more subtle and let all the older whiskey flavors shine through. So knowing Owen,
it sounds like
sure that this is intentional.
That's the way it was planned. And I appreciate, I mean, that's why our listeners need to listen to our podcast, because I didn't know that. And I think that's a great explanation of how the whole distilling, blending, how do master distillers come up with a product? How do they decide how to do it? And, I don't have the background to be able to do that, but to me, it's really, really interesting to see things like this, where they've got 2 different age-stated ryes. They've finished one. They're working with them together. That's a lot of work behind it.
No, it is. I'm actually very interested to try. I've really liked everything that Owen has done since he's been at Angel's Envy. So I'm definitely excited to try this one as well. Hopefully there's a bottle coming or a sample.
Well, let's hope so. That sample. Yeah. I mean, again, it's it's a specific price point. I can't say that it's unfair based on what it is, but you've got, it's going to be in the glass case.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's definitely at that higher price point. All right, so there have been a lot of releases, so we're now at our last one. So Chicken Cock Whiskey has reintroduced its limited edition Ryeteous Blonde, a collaboration with Goodwood Brewing. This unique release features Chicken Cock Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey finished in Goodwood Brewing Blonde Ale barrels. The result is a, quote, smooth, vibrant pour that expertly balances the bold spice of rye with the bright, malty sweetness imparted by the beer barrels. Launching officially on May 1st, that would be today, as part of the brand's Ryeteous Summer campaign, spelled Ryeteous. This special release will be available for a limited time at select retailers, online where available, and at the circa 1856 brand home in Bardstown, Kentucky. It's bottled at 100 proof, with a suggested retail price of $69.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle.
Again, an interesting experiment in my brain because it's a rye, and finishing a rye in a beer barrel is I'm not sure. I'm sure somebody's done it, but I don't remember.
No, I can't think of. I've had many bourbons finished in
beer, but
I can't think of a rye.
I mean, Westward finished their malt whiskey in a stout barrel. So, but again, I can't think of a rye finish in a beer barrel, and this is the blonde ale, so it's not going to be. I wouldn't think a blonde ale barrel would have a huge impact on it. It's probably going to have
some sweetness and some
maltiness, right?
No, I think it might be. Well, did you try? This is a re-release, sort of. So, did you try the original?
I did not.
Yeah,
I saw on the website that it is. It's not the first time they've done this. So,
no, it sounds like it would be a good combination, a nice mix of the spiciness of the rye with sort of a sweetness and maltiness of a blonde ale.
Yeah, I was, the cynic in me said, well, is this just an attempt to try and get a different...
See, I don't have a cynic in me. So I don't think that way.
Is this a different way to get to a different audience and make, sort of a sweeter tasting product that is it going to try to appeal to beer drinkers to get them to cross over? And there's nothing wrong with that. But
well, sure. I mean, I think distilleries are always trying to make things that are going to appeal to different drinkers. Why would you not?
Yeah. The more the merrier.
Yeah. So, well, that's quite the mouthful, so to speak, today. So that about does it for this episode.
Bourbon is booming, folks. Don't believe what you hear.
And rye too, apparently.
Right.
And single malt. We've had them all. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon Release News Podcast. Be sure to like and follow us at your preferred podcast provider so that you don't miss an episode. And don't forget to tell all your friends, too. You can also head over to bourbonobsessed.com to read the print versions of my newsletters, where you can find links to press releases and full versions of the news stories mentioned in this podcast. You can also sign up to have my newsletters delivered directly to your inbox. While you're on my website, check out some of our over 300 bourbon reviews and rye and single malt, and over 50 distillery write-ups. Finally, I can also be found on Instagram at bourbon_obsessed and on Facebook at Bourbon Obsessed. And where can they find you, Dean?
Ed, folks can find me only on Instagram. I'm Dean of Bourbon with underscores, and it's a limited medley right now, but I keep working on it as often as I can. I encourage you to come follow me and see what I can come up with.
We're all waiting to see that.
And we appreciate your patience, because I know it's been a wait. So I'm trying to leverage my way up with the podcast, Ed. So.
All right, thanks, everybody, for joining us. Have a great week.
Bye now.
Cheers.